Yeah, I'm able to see. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. Today here we are again for the event Jatayu. We have our business leaders present here, Mr. Giridhara Madakshira and Mr. Vikram Israni, here to address all your questions for the day. Here you go, sir.
Thanks a lot, Shri. My dear students, respected faculty members, teachers, one and all, welcome to Jatayu. And I could see a lot of enthusiasm and as well as a large participation from your side really gives us the confidence that this is the kind of platform that we wanted to always set up for universities as well as the academia for them to connect with industries and then take advantage of the best practices and the expertise that lies with industry as well when it comes to innovation and taking business solutions to the market. Now, having said that, in our last call, we launched Jatayu, and I'm sure each one of you would have understood Jatayu in your own way. But let me reiterate what is the intent behind this program and what we are trying to achieve in three different phases of Jatayu. Now, having said that, Jatayu program or the platform is an open innovation platform, and this initiative will help the students who are in third year who have not exposed to the industries will get a chance to work on the real use cases of an industry. Now, you might be wondering that what is an use case, right? So, just to demystify some of these words which have been using a lot nowadays in our industry, a use case is nothing but just an interaction of an actor with a process or a system. In a simple way, if I have to give you an example, for example, if you are booking for a Uber or a Ola taxi, you interact with an application and for your travel or any other thing, when you interact with a process or an application, that we call it as a use case. Like in this case, it was more, you are requesting for a transportation as a service. Now, if that is the concept that we are going behind a use case, then you might be wondering, what do I mean by problem statements and what kind of problems can result out of a use case? Now, during these interactions, you might have noticed that there are many frictions that takes place. Sometimes we call user experience is not so good, right? The struggle in which you have to anticipate a taxi to come and arrive, and sometimes it don't even come on time. And what could be an easiest solution for it? How do I know that when I book, will I get any notification, or how do I know how far the driver is from my place? And does he know what time I'll be reaching to the destination? What would be my charges? There are so many complications comes out of that, right? That user experience part of it in addressing those problem areas in when dealing with such interactions and the touch point becomes the most important aspect of any use case. Now, when we are talking about domain, they can fall under many of these things. Just to give an example, in the industry terms, we segregate these domains into manufacturing and healthcare, be it your banking and financial services. Then you can talk about retail part of it. So there are various industries domain that can take advantage of a particular use case. Some of the use cases are very, very specific to a particular industry, but some they cut across the industries. We call them as a horizontal use cases because it spans across the various industries. Supply chain, if I want to talk about it, that will cut across the various industries, right? So it is not limited to a particular domain or an industry side of it. Now, after we have demystified these things for you, what we are trying to do is, typically when a new product is launched or any new innovation has to happen, um, um, has to take place in the market or in the industry, we always start with the problem statement. What is the business challenge and what problems the end user is facing today? Now that has to be looked up in a context. Otherwise, what will happen is you will end up solving the world problem, which is not very easy for somebody to comprehend, right? So in order to make it easy for you, we have given 5 use cases, and in a while, my colleague Vikram will walk you through those 5 use cases very quickly, and then give you one more glimpse of what those use cases are. And in that scope and the context, all you have to do is think through what are those various problems that can come through, and then which industry might be facing that problem when they are interacting with these kind of a use cases in that context, and then what users might have what challenges and how do I solve that. Now technology is a small element in that, right? When, because it is only an enabler, or a technology is coming in as one of the component inside that big jigsaw puzzle that we are trying to solve it. So it could be a process innovation, it could be innovation in your business model. Innovation can be anything. So don't always get boiled down with the fact that innovation has to happen through the technology way, right? So when you are thinking through, think that, how can I make it happen? Just to give you an example, product servitization as one of the use case, and you are all, I'm sure by this time you would have thought through it, but just give you an example. Today, take consumer market, or the retail side of this segment, where today X company is selling water filters as a product. Now what is the challenge with that is the customer has to pay upfront. They have to shell out money to buy this product, and tomorrow, if they want to change that water filter, say for example in their locality, they might be getting their source of water could be something else, and tomorrow if changes in terms of the mineral content, or we call it as the pH value, dramatically changes, then the water becomes impossible to consume. Then in that case, they have to go for a different type of water filter. It could be reverse osmosis or an RO plant kind of a thing, where they have to shell out additional amount to upgrade their product or change that product itself. Now, owning this product itself will not solve their problem, right? With that, there is an AMC, annual maintenance contract, everything comes up with that, and then they have to pay extra money for that also. Now, if you want to solve this problem for this company X, which is manufacturing this water filter, what you can do is you can do 3 things. One, if you give them a different business model, saying that instead of selling the water filters, can I offer water as a service? So what do you mean by that? Everyone will be taken back and say that, hey, I don't understand what is this new offering is about. So you can easily explain them that pay by liter kind of a thing. Every 1 liter of water your consumers consume it, they will pay an X amount of money. Say for example, for every liter they will pay 2 rupees or 3 rupees kind of a money, right? So once they pay or do the payout based on the consumption, can you start thinking through how they should be able to monitor it? Because the biggest risk for them is they should have control in terms of how their product is getting used by their end users. Now they have to put sensors to it. They have to know how much water they are consuming it through these sensors data. So now you have sensorized it through IoT. You have collected the data, and you have set up a platform for this company to monitor all these things. And then hence they could be changing their business model to selling a product to selling a service. It is like buying a Tata Sky subscription, or any other Airtel TV or any other dish services. You might have very well known that, right? So there they don't sell the product, they sell services, like you pay by channel per view and things like that. Very similar model you can do it with and disrupt this whole thing. Now that is the idea that we are looking for when we come in that space. Now if you shift a domain, you can even talk about medical devices. That's the example we gave in the last thing. So the same consumer segment has now shifted to medical devices, but the actors are changed. It is the hospital is the new actor who is buying these services, and then there are healthcare device manufacturers like Philips and GE and so on and so forth. So your ecosystem changes, your technology changes, but your framework remains the same. Now, how do I present this? That is the first thing that you will be doing in a phase one, which is more of an ideathon. What you have to do is do a very simple research in terms of, we call it as a secondary research. This is not a very 6 months or 7 months kind of a research. It is only a matter of 2 or 3 days in terms of understanding various reports coming from your analysts will be talking about. This will be the future, this is how the future technology look like, this is how the future market looks like. So figure out what is the potential of that, how much the revenue potential it has got, and then note it down. As an entrepreneur, this will give you enough weapons or enough potential to go after, saying that, you know what, with this data I'm going to think through my solution. So that's the first step towards that. Next, you put down saying that in order to solve these things, here is my high level recommendation in terms of how I will approach it. And you give your own example of who are those actors, what pain points they have got. So picturize that and put it in a slide format. So anyone who wants to understand what you are trying to say, it will become easy for them to understand. Then the third and the fourth slides, you can cover your solution overview details in terms of what would be your front end, what would be your platform of choice, whether it is in cloud you are going to host this, how you are going to do it, how the connectivity happens. Put all those things into a perspective and then present it at a very high level. We call that as a reference architecture. It will not have very detailed one. Someone was asking that, today I will call out Angular and tomorrow if I want to change it to React, am I eligible for that? Of course you are eligible, because what we want to see from you is, it's not typecasted kind of a solution, but is your thinking and the practical approach you are trying to document over here, is it practical or feasible? That's all we are trying to look at in this document. And finally, you will be presenting only the idea in the form of a PPT, or it could be any other document. But for our easy of going through many such submissions, it will be easy if we can follow a template. I think Vikram will also follow through the template and then show you what are those points that you need to cover it. Now, while you are doing that, there are some important weightages that we are going to associate. So pay attention to the problem statement and the market data that you are going to present over there. Pay attention to your reference architecture, because that is where we will see how matured you are in terms of thinking, technology, and things like that, right? And it need not be a very complicated one, but in a simple term, if you can even understand this technology and put it over there, that would be of a immense value. Likewise, follow the template, and in simple 4 to 5 slides, if you can present it in a well-rounded fashion with all the things. So we are going to see the completeness of your approach, solutions, everything, and then there will be certain weightages associated with that as well. Now, winners of this, that means 5 teams for each use cases, will be picked up to go ahead and build a POC. When I say POC or MVP, that is when you will put actual code behind it. That means your idea will start getting wings. It will start getting into a demo shape where you can even demonstrate with your own Raspberry Pi boards or with your own open source code, you can demonstrate, right? There is no restriction that you have to have a commercial grade. So don't spend too much money in terms of buying costly hardwares or anything like that. We are not expecting anything to do that. But once you cross that and we are satisfied that you have built a successful prototype and your MVP is qualifiable for industrialization and you have successfully cracked it, and all the principles of programming you have incorporated in that, the choices that you have taken in terms of architecture from the scalability standpoint. Scalability, when I say, what if some 50,000 users start using your product, will it break? Will your solutions seamlessly work without coming down? How much SLA it can hold? All those things you can cover it in your POC point. That is your second stage. So when you pass through that second phase of Jatayu, in the third phase, that is, we call it as the industrialization. That means you might have heard many people saying that this looks like a small college project which we cannot take it to the industry. What they're trying to say is it's not to belittle you or anything like that. What they say is it is very theoretical and academic oriented from the learning aspect. But in the practical scenario, when we say industrialization, theory doesn't hold good over there. You have to show performance report. You have to show that there is, during disaster recovery, what happens if suddenly some machines are going down. Will that session, especially financial transaction, you would have started initiated a particular transaction, but if your backend server goes down, what will happen to my transaction? People will ask such questions, right? And your solution should be ready to answer that and also provide a DR failover, scalability, performance side of it. There should not be any delay in terms of from their user experience standpoint. And all these things, our tech leads and our architects will help you to shape it up and make it so robust that tomorrow you can launch it and take it to the market. At that time, we are going to invite some of our customers as judges, and in that finale, you are going to present this to a live customer. Imagine, when will you get such an opportunity while you are studying? You can be presenting this to Google, right? So that would be your dream, and Jatayu gives you an opportunity to interact with industry experts, present it to very large customers. You are working a prototype in an industrialized fashion. That will be an eyebrow raiser, and then everyone will be interested to hear and then see what you have done, and that's a proud moment for all of us. And post that finale, what more you can expect? We are having a series of offers for you. If we have found that kind of caliber and talent in you, and you are ready to work in a very innovative companies like Virtusa, we would like to welcome you on board without you have to go through a campus placement. So a direct entry to Virtusa post that would be a big thing, along with 1 lakh cash prize. So these are the things that we have set up a grand vision for the Jatayu. And this is not going to be the end of it. There will be series of Jatayu programs that we are going to launch and create such industry-ready solutions that we can take it to the market. And while doing that, there is a co-innovation, co-IP creation opportunities. We help you to file IPs, and you can be the co-author while doing that. These are some of the highlights which I wanted to do it and then bring in that clarity. Even though it is a detailed one, I thought it is very important for us to touch upon and give you that to clarify some of these doubts in your mind. Now I'll request my colleague Vikram to just walk you through very quickly on all the 5 use cases and then detail out the template on what you should accomplish. Because keeping the timeline in mind, I think those template you have to quickly follow through. If you're stuck with that, do let us know, and ensure that you will get qualified and reach out to your placement officers or your faculty members who are part of this Jatayu program. Take their help and then ensure that the quality and the expectation that we are meeting from here is matched. So with that, why don't I quickly open it up for Vikram to add on those use cases and the template, and then we can take further questions on that. So Vikram, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Giri, and thanks everyone for joining again and talking to us. So as Giri suggested, I'll just quickly walk you all through again to through the use cases, and then we'll move to the FAQs that we have identified. So as we discussed last time, these are the use cases we are going to cover. The first one, product servitization. Then the next one is going to be on digital wallet for connected things. Third one is intelligent edge. And then we have AI-based content moderation. And the last one is automation in game testing. Product servitization, as we as we discussed last time, it is nothing but moving from a product-based revenue model to a service-based revenue model. So as Giri gave very good examples, one of those was on water purifiers. Similarly, it can be applied to any business scenario where you are moving from a product dependent revenue stream to a service dependent revenue stream. Apple has recently done it. They have increased focused on their subscription based services compared to the devices that they sell. So their revenue stream is now going to be more focused on the subscription fees they collect on different services they provide on top, with their mobile phones. Similarly, it can be applied to many other industries and different scenarios. Second one is digital wallet for connected things. So here what we talk about is things that are connected through IoT. IoT platforms can also house the payment facility, and that we call digital wallet. So currently, for making any kind of payments digitally, we are dependent on our phones or on on our laptop or desktop. But what if this payment facility is plugged into the things for which we pay? So for example, if you are if you want to buy music, and you're driving on a car, and your car makes payment for renewal of that subscription of any music platform that you're using, then the car itself is making payment when it is due. Then the payment facility is attached to the connected car, and it is then routed through IoT. Another aspect we wanted to touch upon in this use case was, can we use cryptocurrency instead of the conventional currency? So one very good cryptocurrency option we have these days is Libra, which is launched by Facebook, which is Facebook's cryptocurrency. So what we are trying to explore is when we try out, enabling the connected devices making payments, can they make these payments using Libra as a platform? So that is the second use case. Third one was intelligent edge, which is nothing but a combination of artificial intelligence and edge computing. What we're trying to see here is if we can utilize edge computing for various applications and make these edge computing platforms intelligent, using artificial intelligence. How can we provide these services better? So some of the examples where this technology is being tested already are proctoring services, visual inspection of defects, image analytics, the smart city. So these are the probable applications. There could be more, Now, one question which came here, because we have written better if using Google Coral, because that's the industry benchmark. But since there is some cost associated to using Google Coral, I think one question came from the students that, what about the cost that will be there? Do we need to invest that? So the answer is, in the initial phase, students need not go through Google Coral. They can use any other free open source platform. But once they reach the industrialization phase, that means once they are selected for industrialization and in their internship with Virtusa, they'll be provided all these paid platforms. So Google Coral can be accessed when your idea reaches the industrialization phase. Next use case is AI-based content moderation for chatbots and conversation platforms. So a lot of chatbots and conversation platforms are now replacing humans, in call centers, and a lot of, helpline numbers. So what is happening in that case is there's a lot of moderation required just to ensure the right quality of answers are provided, and if the questions are interpreted well by the chatbots and conversation platforms. So that's why what we are trying to see here, how AI can enable that kind of intelligent comprehension. It may also apply to moderation of content on social media platforms, where if there is any objectionable content being floated, it can be checked and blocked in real time using AI. So that could also be one of the applications. And last one we have is automation in game testing. So because of the volume of players, the volume of participants in online games increasing, which we also know as massively multiplayer online games. In such gaming scenarios, because of the sheer volume of data being exchanged and the heavy loads of processing, uh, there is a need for automation, right? So we are trying to explore what all can be automated, and to provide a seamless gaming experience and improve the quality of gaming. What all can be such applications? Now this is just an example. MMOGs is an example, but there could be other scenarios also in gaming industry. So this use case basically focuses on the testing part of the gaming industry, how the testing can be automated. Yeah.
Sorry, Vikram, to interrupt you. I think there were a couple of questions on this use case alone, where I think they didn't have the clarity. What we can do is slightly touch upon those things and then help them. I could see a question coming from Deepika in terms of saying what we are supposed to do in this project. They are not able to understand what is automation in game testing. So, my dear students, just to give you an example of an automation, what we are essentially trying to say is humans doing this kind of a multiplayer game testing is becoming a challenge. That means, say, for example, you all know PUBG or any other online games where 4 or 5 players play together online in real time, right? In order to recreate scenarios and then in order to test it out, today they need human beings only, and that is very difficult to simulate it. Now, there are open source frameworks like GameDriver.io, which you can use it to create a bot. When I say a bot, it's actually, it can go and play the game like how humans play, right? It will understand various interaction elements and things like that. And if you write bots like this with the different characteristics, and then showcase a very minimal thing, in this first phase, just pick up on the idea. You don't have to go and explore too much deeper into it. There are a lot of frameworks available in terms of how you can write a bot, and it is pretty easy for you to write it out. If it was 5 years back, I wouldn't have even challenged you saying that try to automate the game testing. But with the advancement of technologies, frameworks, and open source availability, it's a lot more easier today to write a game bot which will also play the game like a human being and automatically tests the various screens and things like that. Then the second one is Selenium driver itself. You can use it to do an image comparison. So if you know that these are the set of images that has to happen in level 1 level when certain moves have to take place, you can pre-record that and then run through whether such output will take place or not. So such image comparison based automation, you can write it. So these are some of the things that we are trying to put over here in terms of how we can do an automation. It could be a functionality testing. It could be an accessibility testing, or for that matter, nowadays even there is an integration of chatbot also into it. So can I also do a dialogue based kind of a thing, right? Where in Farmville and all, if you look at it, when you type in certain things, it will react in certain way. So the speech will be in the form of text. So you can compare those texts and then see whether you got the right answer from the avatars in that game or not. Those validations you can automate it too. So don't limit the automation only to images, but it can also go through the content also. So what is the expected answer for a question? All those things you can validate and provide your automation solution around it. So be very creative when it comes to that, and then explore this. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to get into the new world, and all your engineering learnings can be put into test through this exciting opportunity. I would say seriously consider this particular use case as well. Sorry about that, Vikram. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kiri, for that clarification. So yeah, so now I'll just quickly move to the template. A lot of questions we've been getting on, what needs to be included and what not. So we already discussed this in the last call. So what we would like to emphasize on, if you can cover these 4 major areas, and as Giri suggested, it could be covered in not more than 5-6 slides. You can briefly capture all these details, and of course you can showcase and whatever you have made in a hardware form also. But this supporting document in a PowerPoint presentation of 5-6 slides will essentially cover all these 4 areas. First one being the business need or opportunity. So here you need to talk about what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and what unmet need it is serving. That also you have to identify. So if there are there is a challenge and no other solution provider or no other player in the industry is trying to address it, yeah, there is a need, there is an unmet need. So you need to highlight that. Why is it important for you to address this need? So you need to talk about what do you bring to table to be the right person to solve that problem, and what value this solution provides. So you need to define that value proposition here. Second is target segment or market size. So here you need to identify which specific target segment or customer segment you're targeting, and what's the size of the opportunity in terms of you can just add some dollar value there, that this much is the expected size of market if we launch this solution. Third one is the solution itself. That's the core of your deliverable. So the solution or idea in a very brief format. You can talk about what's the idea, behind coming up with that solution, what is the USP or the differentiation that solution comes with, and also explain the key features or benefit it brings. Okay, and the fourth one is the end result or impact of the solution. So, what specific areas of customer requirement it is basically addressing, exact benefit. So you need to quantify the benefit and the impact here. Yeah, so pretty much this pretty much covers the requirement. We're not suggesting any specific format as such in terms of slide by slide, but if you cover these four areas, this is pretty much exhaustive. And your evaluation also would revolve around these four areas, although weightages may differ. So yeah, so that's pretty much about the structure.
So, and also, Vikram, there are questions like, can I exceed 7 slides in particular?
Yeah.
So at this moment, we don't have any restriction on number of slides, but then try to keep it minimal. It will be easy for us to evaluate because there will be a lot of submissions that is going to take place, and it will become impossible for us to pay attention to every details. So the more concise, more to the point kind of thing will be a lot more helpful. Some of them are even asking, can I include a video in my presentation? Please feel free to do so, but do not exceed the size limit where it will become impossible for your college to submit this. And this is going to be like an offline submission. You are not going to present these slides. So in your absence, the slide itself should speak about your idea. That is how you should be artistic in presenting this. So you will not be in a position to defend this. This is very much practical, how in industry it runs. In most of the cases, when we submit a response to a customer query, we will not be in a position to defend or will be in a present our cases. So a lot of our time goes in terms of how do I simplify my ideas, how do I make sure that the third person understand this. So spend your time, run it with your friends, and then see without you explaining, will they be able to understand what you are trying to tell them. So once you are satisfied that anyone can read and understand your slides, that means you have achieved your goal and it is ready for submission. Now, the most important one is there are questions around cryptocurrency. Just to clarify you that Libra is not a cryptocurrency. There is a myth that Libra is a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, but they work in a different tandem. You are right. Novi is the new, the wallet that Facebook is creating. However, Libra BFT is a platform which exposes a lot of API, can be consumed by any digital wallet. And what it does is Libra coins are unlike Bitcoins, are not a cryptocurrency, but they are backed by the real currency itself. That means in Europe, for example, they have opened a consortium where 29 banks and other players have come into play. Each one of them have to buy something called a consensus node in the blockchain by paying $10 million. So every coin that you are going to that will get circulated within the Libra ecosystem will be backed by a currency. When I say that one Libra coin, for example, if in US is backed by $1. That means anyone who trades exchange Libra coin will be backed by $1, and it is backed up by the bank. That is the surety the bank is going to give. So it works in a different model, unlike Bitcoin, where it is not backed by the real currency part of it. So just to clarify you on that, and hence, still decisions are not taken by government of India as well and the RBI, and there is no ban on the Libra, and Nomi will anytime get launched. When they launch, we should be in a position to take advantage of that. That is the reason why we are going after that, and it will be crucial for us to demonstrate on that platform, because unlike bitcoins, this has got a more potential where there are no service charges associated with that, and it will pick up a lot. That is what our initial analysis and whole excitement is around that. So just to give you a background on that part and clarifying your doubts. Apart from that, as I'm reiterating again, the first phase is the idea submission alone. Don't even worry about POC or working code or anything like that. Focus on the idea and focus on this template. And you don't have to download this template. Someone is asking, it is PDF, how will I download it? You don't have to download it. There is nothing like, we are forcing you to use these logos and the the master slide template itself. What we are saying a template means, it is just the structure of your document has to be in this fashion. That's it. Feel free to use your college templates or whatever that is, but the flow of your submission should be in this manner, so that we know which section we are reading. On the top right corner, you can put business need and opportunity, so we know that that is the area you are talking in that particular slide. That's all we need to understand and map it to that particular submission. Um, Apart from that, I can also see a lot of questions coming around uh, the the submission timelines and things like that. So Kriti, do we want to emphasize on the timeline as well? Would you like to address those questions before we get into the FAQ?
Yeah, sure, Giri. Uh, so the timeline that we are looking at is, I'm sorry, one second, one second.
So while Kriti is, I think it will be better if Kriti covers that in the end with, so that we can all remember that. Vikram,
Sure.
just for the benefit of everyone, would you like to run that top 10 FAQs very quickly? And then we can get to the timelines part of it and then see if you have addressed all the questions. By that time, let me skim through all the questions and then see if anything is unanswered.
Sure, Giri. Thanks a lot for those additional clarifications. So I think the first common question we came across was, will some problem statement be provided to us? That was the question. So the answer to that is, problem statement is something that students will have to come up with. What we are providing are use cases. So use cases are different, and problem statement is different. But yeah, problem statements will have to revolve around those use cases, but students themselves have to come up with problem statements. So for example, in that digital wallets attached to connected things, uh, problem statement could be anything like, okay, there are so many accidents happening because of people using mobile phones for making payments while they are driving. That is a problem statement. How do we solve it? So the use case comes into picture that we have shown, that if you have your connected devices making the payments automatically through digital wallets, you can solve this problem. There was also some question around the domain, what domains you have to cover. So domain, again, people are getting confused with domain and the use cases we have presented. So our use cases could be covering multiple domains. So for example, this digital wallets in connected things can have multiple domains. One is payments, of course. The other could be, let's say, automotive, if we are talking about connected car. Okay, so automotives, payments, these two domains are covered. Plus, if you're using emerging technologies in that, then of course, emerging technologies or high tech becomes the another domain. So, so this is the difference between problem statement, use case, and domain. I hope I was clear. Uh, The next one comes as, can a group select its own use case? So the use cases have to be from these five which we have presented. However, you're free to choose your problem statement as we suggested. You can also uh, use multiple use cases that can address your problem statement.
Vikram, to that asking, can I also pick up a social problems?
Yeah.
So, dear friends, I would like to request you to stay with this problem. Social problems like to
Giri, your voice is not clear. It's
compare them
breaking.
to business problems.
Giri, your
And
voice is breaking.
am I audible now?
Yeah. Yeah, Giri.
If now,
Uh, no, Giri, it's breaking again.
Yeah.
sorry about that internet problem I'm facing. So let me know once my
It is better now,
network
Giri. Yeah,
stabilizes.
It's
Okay.
it's better now. Yeah.
Yeah, all I was saying is, yeah, don't focus on the social problems, but stay with the business problems. Because if you look at the template, that is very, very specific to a business opportunity and the need, and it will become difficult for us to compare the impact of a social problem, a solution to a social problem versus a business impact, and it will mismatch the submission side of it, and we'll be in a dilemma to select it. So please stick to this format so that it will be easy for us to evaluate and focus on that. But of course, we will come up with a Jatayu program where our focus would be more on the social impact. That is the next theme that we will pick it up. But however, this theme is all about the business centric theme. So let's stay with that.
Thanks, Giri. Next question was around the paid technology platforms to be used, because we gave an example of Google Coral. I think that's why that question came. I have already answered, but I'll re-emphasize that at this stage you can go with the open source platforms, but once you enter the industrialization phase, Vachuza will help you get access to the paid platforms as well. Next one was on, do we need to create an application and submit, or just submit an idea related to use cases? So I think in the initial phases, you can come up with just the idea and support it with all the requirements suggested in the template. But once you enter the industrialization phase, there will be a real application that will be required. Uh, And next was, is it mandatory for each group to address every use case? So it's not mandatory, but you're free to combine use cases as I explained earlier. Um and
And in that similar line, Vikram, people are getting confused, saying that some of the use cases have got 4 problems. So should I have to solve all the 4 problems? Those 4 problems are just an indicative to you. You don't have to cover all the 4 problems. They are just, just to give you some idea in terms of
examples.
how to think about, or an example of a problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, correct. Next question was, how do we need to present the ideas? Will it have to be in PPT format, or can we submit both PPT and PDF? So Giri has already answered it. So what we are trying to do is just to save time. If it is in a, the primary document can be PPT, but you can support it with additional material if you want a PDF or a video or something. That's absolutely allowed. But the primary document, just for consistency and ease of evaluating, PPT is preferred. Next is selection judging criteria for the problem statement. So it is all what I have discussed in the template slide. So your problem statement has to cover all those areas, and based on that, it will be judged. do we need to know coding in order to participate in the program? That was one of the questions. So yeah, some of the elements of these solutions may require coding. So maybe in a team, if somebody is comfortable with coding, that would definitely be required. So coding is one part of the whole solution that will be required. Can we expect any training from you? That was another question. So as Giri said, there will be a team of coaches who will be there to guide you from Virtusa. Um, the involvement of coaches will increase when you reach the industrialization phase, but before that, there could be a question answer, way of communicating with you, where you can send out your queries, and the coaches might answer in an offline, fashion. So that's how it will be. Next one was on, even though we have less knowledge in the implementation part on the mentioned domain and our idea being good, would that back down us in the future rounds? So I think initial round, of course, you can present the idea and the reference architecture. Sorry. So, and when you move to the next phases, the industrialized phase, of course, application implementation will be required. What about the patent opportunities? That was another question. So as Giri said, Virtusa will provide you opportunities to patent the technology that you come up with, depending on the eligibility, of course. We have to present our presentation to you or send via email. So initially, as Giri said, it will be sent through email and evaluated. Of course, in the later stages, you'll have certain rounds where you'll have to present, and that will happen more in the industrialization phase. Whether we need to...
In that aspect, Vikram, there was few questions coming along. Are we supposed to submit offline to college as well? We are not controlling what you should do on the college side. Please feel free to reach out to your faculties and your placement officers. Even you can discuss with them, you can interact with them, you can even present your solution ideas. So they are the one who will be finally consolidating or judging at the college level, and then the top 5 use cases will be shared with us. So from the filtering criteria, they hold a lot more, I would say, importance. So you better, discuss this in a proactive manner, keep it yeah, more interactive. Don't wait for the last minute to submit it, and ensure that you are keeping your college faculty informed all the time about it. Have a regular participation discussion on a daily basis. And more importantly, someone asked the question saying that if my college doesn't fulfill the criteria of submitting for all 5 cases, what will happen to my use case, which might be extraordinary? So those are the edge cases that we will handle as an on a need basis. At this point, we are requesting colleges to submit all the 5 ideas as a mandatory. But if there are edge cases, definitely we'll look into it. But do not fall short in submitting ideas for all 5 use cases. Discuss with your placement officers and then your faculty members to see are there any gaps in terms of the number of submission on a particular use case, who are all working on what use cases. If no one has picked up one particular use case, how do we bridge that gap? So in a very cohesive manner, work towards that and ensure that from the college side, you don't fault on any of these things, criteria that we have set for. But be rest assured, we are not going to leave your ideas just like that. If there are edge cases, there definitely we will evaluate that on a case-to-case basis. At this moment, it is very premature for me to comment or commit anything on that. So let's see how things will shape it up by end of next week. And there are repeated questions around format of the presentation as well. Uh, don't worry too much about the number of slides or format, and then code we are not asking at this stage, so don't focus too much on the code. But of course, can I present my idea without a technology? Don't do that, because there is a third section. If you look at it, it is pretty much asking for a technology stack with a reference architecture. So that's a mandatory, without which there is no way that we can validate whether your idea is a real idea or can be implemented or not, right? So think that you are presenting your idea to a venture capital who is going to fund your company. So think like an entrepreneur, don't think like a student. So you're all business guys. You have to think through, how do I impress my customer to get that funding and make my idea come in front and win this competition. So think like business guys. Yeah. So anything else we wanted to cover, Vikram? I know we are on top of the hour, but I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we have covered all the questions, the common questions, Giri, and we can open it for uh, anything that new they have. I mean, any students have to ask.
Go ahead.
Quite a good number of FAQs that has come. In fact, pretty huge list, but I'll try and keep it short and pick up only the best ones. Uh, so one of the Piyush has asked, I've taken up AI-based content moderation. Is it really important for us to develop a chatbot for a specific platform, or can be any platform?
Yeah, it can be any platform, and you don't have to address all the requirements over there. Today, there are many open source available for you to train these chatbots from the content moderation aspect itself. So there are frameworks from Facebook itself that you can use it for content moderation, to detect any abusive language or profancy in the chat or in the content side of it. So leverage those open source technologies, and you can develop these chatbots, and there is no restriction on the platform side of it. Whatever is your comfort, you can choose that.
So the next question from Anonymous: can it be replicated with a similar customer, another target segment? In the target segment area, we could understand this part while making the document.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you are saying that when you say the target customers and the domain side of it, it's the end user perspective you are talking about it. In that case, definitely go ahead. You are free to pick up a cross domain or a multi industry kind of a scenario. In the example which we have given is around the healthcare, or it could be an automotive, it could be a combination of that. Anything is open, so there is no way that we are going to eliminate you just because you have picked up multiple customers and domains.
What should we keep in center while creating our model, technology or idea? Talking in terms of innovation.
Yeah, both are important. To start with an idea, but then you cannot leave the technology part of it, because when you leave the technology part of it, your solution will become very shallow, and it will lose its depth and the breadth side of it. So balance it out. At this point, if you are not very well able to think through on this technology aspect about it in terms of the code, modularity, functionality, all those things, you can park it for now. I'm not saying that you should get into a detailed design kind of a thing. When I say reference architecture, it is equivalent to a very high level design. Somewhere you have to say, for cloud, this is the platform I'm going to choose it. It could be 50,000 feet high. You don't have to be very specific in terms of saying that how will I do this, what will happen. You don't have to get into that kind of a double click or a too detailed deep dive. That will come in the second phase of implementation in the POC side of it.
On the last meet, Mr. Giri said that virtual currency will be awarded. We have an idea that uses Google Coral products. Can we spend that money on actual hardware, or we should buy our own hardware?
So this virtual currency, what I was talking about, is part of the gamified thing. That is part of the POC implementation. So when we are saying that we will give you a virtual currency, that is more to buy software components from Virtusa side of it. It is not equivalent to something which you can buy it online, or not even like a cryptocurrency, right? It has got no value. But from the gamification standpoint, it is just gives you a feeling that you have money to spend to buy some of the SDK or APIs from Virtusa for you to fast track your programming side of it. Now limit your thing. If you don't want to spend your money on the hardware, use simulators. A lot of open source simulators are available out there, which will exactly mimic the IoT or the hardware part. So to that extent, someone even asked in my product servitization, should I have to build the product or the service part of it? Now, when I say product servitization, you are not going to build the product. Use the emulator, which will behave like a sensor, which will, in the case of a water filter example, what I was giving, you're not expected to put this solution on a real water filter and buy sensors for that. It is impossible for anyone to do that, right? So use emulators to mimic the water flow. You can do that, and it will spit out in a few notification, few events for you. Tap that in your cloud platform, and then based on that you can build a model or a software layer, which we call it as a service layer, where you can show that this much of consumption has happened, and hence I'm going to charge the customer X amount of dollar. That's just an example I'm giving you. So you can mimic the hardware without even spending $1 on that. So that's the idea I'm giving it to you. Don't go with a exorbitant spend on these hardwares and things like that. You can intelligently do it with emulators and simulations.
Is reference architecture mandatory?
Yes, it is a mandatory because without which we will not be able to compare how you are going to build your solution and then get into the phase 2 part of it. Because what will happen is when we select you as a winner in the first phase, we have to ensure that you will also pass through the second phase, right? Otherwise, what is the point in we selecting you in the first phase where you can't even sail through the second phase of the Jatayu? So we want to ensure that you will be a successful, till you hit the industrialization. And the idea is not to eliminate you. Idea is trying to see how each one of your ideas can be taken to the market, because according to us, every idea is a great idea. Every innovation will happen from you, bright minds from you, from the academia and people like you. So don't even hesitate to put up a reference architecture. If you have any doubts, your faculty members or your friends will definitely be able to help you out on that.
Okay, one moment. It's again loading. We have so many questions here.
No issues, no issues.
Most of the questions are towards the presentation. Can we submit a video along with the presentation? Should we add a working demo, or is it just a presentation? So there are so many questions which are related to the presentation, final presentation.
Yeah, as I said, Naveen, I'm reiterating again. Keep it very simple. Your presentation, we are not expecting any demo here. Demo is part of the second phase of the Jatayu, where after you do a proof of concept implementation, you can show the demo. All we are asking is your problem, what is your problem statement that you are going after? how it is potential in terms of its market value, and then who will be getting benefit out of that, uh, who are the likely to pay for that services or for that solution, and how are you going to build it. So this is like we are asking for a blueprint. So produce that blueprint in a very concise fashion. Don't spend too much time in terms of building a videos and things like that. If a video is there, well and good. Otherwise, don't spend too much time on that. Spend a lot of time in terms of providing a very accurate information and a very clean, those 4 points which we have captured. Try to play around within that, and then be very specific on that, your objectives. It has to be like we call it as a elevated pitch. So if you want to pitch it to somebody who has got money to spend on you, right? Think them as your VCs or venture capitalists who are ready to spend money on your idea. And how do you convince them to spend money on your idea? That's the intent in which you have to create this.
Thanks, Giri. And there are multiple questions regarding AI-based or AI content moderation. Is it required to solve all the problem statements in it?
Yes, as I will reiterate again. As I told earlier, those problem statements are just few examples. You don't have to necessarily do the same problem statements, or if you have your own ideas around that problem statements or in that use case, please feel free to include that. You don't have to solve everything to get selected. One of them is fine.
Right. Thanks, Giri. I mean, most of the questions are just repetitive, so I'm just going through it.
Sure. Timelines, I think it is getting flashed over here, so please make a note of it.
Can team put multiple submissions for the same use case?
Ultimately, your college will take a decision on that, right? So when they filter it out and send it to us, we expect them to send top 5 submissions. So your college is the key thing, right? So that's why I'm sending. I'm keep repeating that. Spend as much as time interacting with your, your placement coordinators, your faculties, your senior students, whomever you can reach out to you on this Jatayu, and then ensure that you will convey your ideas. You will ensure that you take their help to refine this so that it will get selected, and that college is the one which is going to send the top nominations to us. So they hold the key importance in terms of filtering it out.
That would be it, Giri, because all the other questions are either related to this AI content moderation or presentations or deadlines, things like that. Everything else is covered. And the other things also you already gave the answer, like most of the questions about gaming, deadlines and things like that have already been answered.
Correct. While we were in the context, I was trying to repeat it. So the deadlines, you can see it is getting flashed on the screen. 2nd November is what it will come to submission to Virtusa. That means you have to work backward. Your college needs some time to go through all your submissions. So ensure that it will reach them pretty early so that they do one round of elimination, selections, coaching you on that. So early you start with them, it is better. So keep that engagement going. In my opinion, if you do it in a very structured way, 2 days of your full-time effort, this template can be filled up. So it's only 4 to 5 slides, very, very concise and specific. Don't even think that it is very scary or too complicated to fill in. Just a few block diagrams. That's all we are looking for it. Not a world-class reference architecture or a few heavy complicated one, nothing like that. Keep it very simple. The only thing is the impact of what you are trying to convey matters a lot. You can use couple of diagrams, use cases, videos, whatever is your creativity is, do that so that you can convey your ideas in a much better way. That's the whole proposition around that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Giri. That would be it. The question session was closed before a while, so there aren't any new questions which you haven't answered. All the queries have been resolved so far.
Excellent. So team, looking forward to hear. In between, if you need anything, contact your college coordinators so that if they have something, they will relay back to us, and we will give a timely response on that. So please keep your college coordinates informed all the time, and wish you all the best. Looking forward for great submissions on this front. So happy ideation and happy innovation on that front. Thanks a lot for your time. Looking forward to interact and have these kind of sessions more in future as well. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Giri. It was very informative. Team, I just wanted to give you a quick high-level update. As you can see, we have actually made a little bit of fine-tune to the dates. You are expected to submit to your college faculty between the 28th and 30th. That's next Wednesday and Friday. But if you have any doubts or if you want to get it vetted before you go ahead and get it approved by your college, or your college will have to do it. If you are stuck somewhere, don't hesitate. Write to us nexusclub@virtusa.com, and we will probably give you a very high level feedback. We will not go through the complete thing, but we'll be able to give you a high level feedback if you are going on the right track. Just send it one or two entries per college, and we can probably help and give you some feedback. Ensure that you submit your college no later than 30th morning, Friday morning, so that your college have enough time, at least the next 3 days between 30th and 2nd November. 2nd November, they are expected to share top 5 presentations from each college. They're supposed to submit to us, and from there on, the timelines remain the same. We will give you the revised. We will give you the results and next steps. Just to reiterate once again, please remember, at this stage you don't have to code, you don't have to think about the prototype and all those things. All you need to do is just prepare a presentation and you need to submit. You don't even have to come and present your presentation. I did notice in some of the mails that you were asking if we had to come and present it somewhere. You don't have to present it anywhere at this stage. All you have to do is just submit the presentation, and we will be sending you the video. We will be sending you the revised document. Again, we will send you the use cases with additional information on the mail. And if there is any questions, there is a link that I have pasted in that mail, which you will be receiving in the next 1 hour. Please record your question there. And we want only the Sparks to record the questions there and not everybody. This will help us answer at ease. Only the Sparks, please ensure that you record the questions in that particular form that you will be receiving tonight. Before tomorrow afternoon, you have to submit. So with this, uh, thank you so much once again, and wishing you all happy Navratri and festival days, and also happy ideation. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. All the best.